Hey guys, it's Linux Next here, and in today's video we are going to be looking at, is Linux gaming gonna continue to grow in the coming years? And the short answer is yes. But why is it going to continue to grow? Even though there have been some glaring issues that have been coming up recently in the past year of Linux gaming. Before this video starts, definitely give it a like and definitely subscribe to the channel. I would definitely appreciate it. So I wanted to make this video because there has been a lot of issues that have been coming out recently with Linux gaming, like the whole anti-cheat situation, like Apex Legends deciding to drop Linux support with the EAC anti-cheat that they use, and some of the other games like League of Legends that used to work on Linux, and then Riot decided to implement Vanguard, so then Linux no longer was able to work on Linux, even though it was unofficial. It was something that was going to come at some point. And when it comes to some of the other games, like let's say Rust, for example, that's one game that I can think of that uses EAC, but they won't enable Linux support. So the question is Linux going to continue to grow? And like I said, the short answer is yes, but why is it going to continue to grow? Well, the first two are pretty obvious, and that's Proton and Wine development that's going to continue to get better and better, and it has been for the past 3 years. It's been getting so freaking good that 98% of the library of games that we all play mostly just work with Proton without many issues. And when it comes to like outside of Steam with Proton, you can use things like GE Proton, add it with UMU, which is a new thing that I talked about recently. You can go watch that video of me talking about UMU runtime. It's a thing that runs when you launch a game, and it's able to apply fixes to GE Proton or whatever game that you're trying to play. It will apply the fixes and you'll get a better experience when playing gaming on Linux outside of Steam. But like I said, Proton and Wine, they're very important pieces of Linux gaming. If Proton wasn't here, we'd still be in the era of where, you know, only a couple games work with DXVK and these custom Wine runners that are running, like the Lutris runner that I remember, like I think it was like the 7th version of Wine with this custom DXVK patch added onto it so you could play Overwatch. Like, if that's what Linux gaming would be like right now, but it's not, thanks to Valve working extremely hard with Proton and Wine, you know, just improving it and making it more of an official way of playing games on Linux. But we are at Proton 9, so you know, in the coming year, we'll see. I think it's like mid of the year or close mid of the year, Proton will rebase to Wine 10, and it'll be marked as Proton 10. And this is going to bring a lot more improvements. One especially is going to be the Wayland driver in Wine. So this is going to improve the desktop experience when you're playing games on Linux. You won't have as many issues, even though I haven't experienced many issues when running games under X Wayland on AMD hardware, but it will improve the Wayland support when playing games on the Linux desktop. But also not Proton, DXVK, VKD3D, these are the translation layers that translate things on Proton. That is going to improve a ton. Also, it's going to bring more like Vulkan extension support. And then when it comes to just like drivers in general, like the Nvidia drivers have been improving a lot when it comes to Wayland support, and even Nvidia posted a blog post about improving Wayland support on their proprietary drivers. Now, one issue that I have seen over the course of like 2.5 years of using Linux for gaming purposes and recording and making videos, just browsing blog posts of news that are happening around Linux. One was about like Aoneo, how they were making a handheld device called the Next Lite, which you can get right now, and it was going to originally have Linux pre-installed on it. But then they decided to back out and install Windows 11, and with the Holo ISO as an optional install. But it doesn't even have it as an optional install. It's actually just, you have to install it manually yourself, which is kind of disappointing, I would say, that you have to install the Holo ISO, which isn't the best distro to choose nowadays when it comes to a SteamOS alternative. There's way better alternatives like Bazzite, and then there was another one called like SteamFork, I think it was called. Great two like distros that you can use for a handheld device. But it was really disappointing seeing Aoneo go,
yeah, we're going to make a Linux distro, or we're going to use Holo ISO and put our own things onto it, and we're going to support Linux when it comes to the handheld side of things like the Steam Deck.
But then they backed out and and installed Windows 11 by default, just because every single game would usually work on a handheld device instead of using Linux. And when it comes to the Steam Deck is now selling in my country, which is Australia. So if I wanted to buy a Steam Deck, I no longer have to buy it from overseas place or someone that's selling it that got it from overseas and are selling it at a higher price. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just go to Steam's website and just order a Steam Deck, either it be the LCD, the OLED, or 512 gigabyte or a 1 terabyte, etc., which are coming soon. I think it's next month or this month they're going to start selling it in Australia. So when it comes to Steam Deck growing in size, more people just knowing that like the Steam Deck is running Linux, that's going to grow, and hopefully the market share with that is going to continue to grow also, as I know PAX, which is a gaming convention that happens around the world, they have one in Australia, and Gabe Newell was showing the Steam Deck was coming to Australia, and they had plenty of demo units you could go and check out and touch. So when it came to Steam Deck is going to continue to grow, which means that SteamOS is going to continue to grow, which SteamOS is based on Arch. So that means that Linux desktop market share is going to continue to grow in the Steam hardware survey. So within like a couple years, we might see Linux desktop market share grow from, right now I think it's 2% on the Steam hardware survey, exactly 2%, to something more higher that actually may get interest of more gaming studios that want to support the Steam Deck. And also when it comes to the Linux desktop side, because the Steam Deck, if you don't know, it is a desktop PC, and you can turn it into a desktop PC by buying Valve's official Steam Deck dock that turns it into a computer for you to use. And there is one more device that I have seen that is being developed right now, and that is called the Orange Pi Neo. Now this is being sold in, I think, China right now, or some of the Asian countries right now, and it's coming soon to like the other countries. But it is a fully based Linux gaming handheld developed by Manjaro and Orange Pi. So this is going to improve when it comes to, if someone is more of a Linux power user, they'll be able to buy this device and they'll have a great experience when it comes to playing games on Linux, and then they'll tell their friends about it. And I think that's the most important thing. It's word of mouth. When things like Linux become really popular, the word of mouth gets spread around, and then over time things start to grow, the market share starts to grow a little bit, more handheld devices become supported when it comes to Linux. And when it comes to the Steam Deck, I do know that they did support the Rogue Ally. I'm pretty sure they brought some driver support in SteamOS, which is really weird, as SteamOS is meant for the Steam Deck, but they're supporting the Rogue Ally. So that gives you clues as to, Steam Deck trying to support other gaming handhelds that run Windows out of the box. And not just that, like Valve is not just working on the Steam Deck. Like I said, that we're working on the Rogue Ally, for example, with driver support, but they are also contributing to the open source software stack of drivers. So when you think about AMD on Linux, you are using the same drivers that the Steam Deck is using, and Valve has a team of engineers that are working on REDV, which is the Vulkan driver in MESA, which allows you to play games on Linux through the Vulkan API of that driver. And even when it comes to the AMD drivers being improved, there is also a new driver that has been worked on for quite a while now, and I've done a couple of videos about it, and that is the NVK driver. Nvidia has been, not necessarily Nvidia, but there has been a specific group of people, I forgot what the name is called, but they have been working on the NVK driver for a while now, and Valve has been helping out on the NVK driver also, which is, like I said, it's the Vulkan driver for Nvidia GPUs. So Valve working on the, they'll bring explicit sync support for NVK Vulkan driver, MESA, that brings a lot more interesting thoughts about how Valve is not just trying to bring better support for AMD, they're also trying to bring better support for the NVK driver, so that maybe in the future, Valve might use Nvidia hardware with the combination of the open source NVK driver, and that will bring better support when it comes to playing games on Linux instead of having to use the proprietary driver. Now, this could be years away from happening, but it's just a thought that I've seen, because a Valve developer is contributing to the NVK driver. That shouldn't be happening. He should be working on the AMD driver, but he's helping out with NVK. So the future of when it comes to Nvidia on Linux, both the proprietary driver and the NVK driver, especially Valve working on it, with bringing maybe like a Steam Deck 3 or something with Nvidia hardware and using NVK, that seems like a decent idea, I would say.
Now, there is a silver lining to this, I would say, and the one is about the Steamos Machine leaks that have been happening. I already posted a video about the these like promotion, whatever it's called, marketing of SteamOS. So it's powered by SteamOS. I already made a video on that. But it is something that is very important for Linux gaming to succeed even further. So I don't really think, in the end, like when it comes to the console side of, Linux machines, I think SteamOS is going to continue to grow, definitely. And as we see here, it says Valve preps for mysterious SteamOS device powered by AMD Ryzen processor. Potentially, Steambox may sport a Hawk Point CPU with Zen 4 and RDNA 3 graphics. As someone pointed out that they saw something in the kernel of SteamOS, and it pointed to a particular computer that hadn't really been used that much.
Now, the biggest problem about Linux gaming today is mostly about the anti-cheat situation, where there is certain anti-cheats like EAC, that EAC and BattleA, they do support Linux. It's just they run in user space, so they don't have as many privileges as the Windows counterparts do. And that means that there are certain games that don't work with those anti-cheats, like for example GTA 5 Online, and then we've got the recent one with Apex Legends, and then we got PUBG, for example, that uses BattleEye, but that uses a mixture, so that's a bit of a messy situation also for bringing support for that. And then big one, Destiny 2, that's another one that uses BattleEye, and they haven't enabled Proton support because they think there will be a bunch of cheaters on Linux and that will just ruin the experience for everyone else. And that is one of the biggest downsides about Linux gaming, I would say. No doubt about it. I do know that the anti-cheat situation is not good. Even though I don't play those games, I know other people do, and that means that when it comes to someone trying out Linux, they have to give up those games. Or, most people say, I don't even play those games, which that's good. Then they can try out Linux and see how it goes and see what problems that occur. Now, the one savior to Linux gaming, I would say, well, it's Valve again, as they continue to improve so many things with Linux, I would say, both Proton, handheld compatibility support, Wine, working with code weavers on Wine, improving the drivers and NVK and RADV and MESA, and bringing just more support. One is the anti-cheat being solved. Not really solved, but one of the things that Valve has been working on is the VAC 3.0 anti-cheat, which is a server-side anti-cheat implementation or improvement of the VAC anti-cheat. Now, this could solve the issue. Not entirely, but it could solve it when it comes to cheaters on at least Valve's games. Could go away with VACNET 3.0 coming out and being used fully. As I know, it's only being used in a limited set of matches, it says here, basically just private matches in CS2, and people have said that it does work really well. Now, that's not to say that it has issues, it probably does, and that's why it's in a limited set of matches, but maybe in a year or so, VACNET 3.0 could be a really big thing that's being used in Valve's games, and cheating could be really low, and to the point of where it's up to where Riot Games bans people on their games. It could be on the same level as that, which then Valve could help out other companies that want to implement a type of server-side anti-cheat that could include supporting Linux with Proton. They could introduce Linux support. Now, this is just hopium right now. I'm just hoping for this to happen, where other games like EA and Ubisoft to implement a server-side anti-cheat properly. That's the level of VACNET 3.0, but it's probably not going to happen because they are really in, especially EA, they're really in on this whole kernel level anti-cheat stuff that they think will solve the cheating situation, which it won't. It literally will not. And you can tell me anything you want, it probably won't solve it when it comes to, like anti-cheat running in the kernel. Like, yeah, that's the highest privileges, but there are always ways of spoofing devices, spoofing different hardware when it comes to the anti-cheat trying to detect if there's something wrong. That's just, kernel level anti-cheats can only go so far between someone having a separate computer and plugging in those DMA cards and reading off a display and injecting cheats into the memory buffer. So I feel like server-side anti-cheats are probably the next solution, either combining server-side anti-cheat and combining it with a kernel level anti-cheat of some sort. You know, that probably would be the best combo when it comes to on Windows, because users don't really care if it's a kernel level or not. They don't really care about the whole privacy situation with kernel level anti-cheat stuff. But like I said, I do hope that VACNET 3.0 in like, let's say 5 years from now is mostly widely used on all different types of games, like all Valve's games, and the cheating situation when it comes to specifically Linux cheaters, as that's supposedly a really big thing, especially in Apex Legends, is a lot lower when it comes to, you know, Valve's games using VACNET 3.0. And the last one would be the worst option to choose when it comes to supporting anti-cheats on Linux more widely, and that is, well, the kernel level anti-cheat being supported on Linux through some type of like DKMS module, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a type of module that gets loaded into the kernel. It's something like the Nvidia driver uses now. We all use the DKMS module to rebuild basically the kernel so the module for the driver can work properly. So technically, because these are just drivers, a kernel level anti-cheat like Riot's one, like Vanguard, or EA's kernel level anti-cheat could be implemented in the kernel, and it could have certain privileges like,
hey, you have to run this specific kernel. You can't run any other kernel. You have to run this specific one.
or you can't play the game, and would load the module with DKMS, and that would probably solve the issue. Now, there could be other problems that can occur, and it probably isn't the best solution when it comes to, with Linux having so many different kernels, and people could easily probably like spoof themselves with a kernel, but it is one solution that can happen. Not the best solution, but it is a solution that can happen. So when it comes to the future of Linux gaming, either it be the desktop or handheld, it's looking very bright when it comes to like driver support, when it comes to specific games getting supported, different studios deciding to, you know, team up and get like Steam Deck verified games, with Proton improving, with Wine improving, plenty of other things happening in the kernel space when it comes to better drivers. It is looking very bright if you're not looking to playing multiplayer games. Of course, there is plenty of multiplayer games. Like, I've been playing Overwatch 2, I've been playing the finals. There's plenty of other games that you can play besides like Call of Duty, Valorant, Destiny, PUBG, League of Legends. But that's it for this video. So if you guys did enjoy it, definitely give it a like. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Definitely comment down below your opinion on like the whole anti-cheat situation. Again, I would like to know, you know, if you've thought of an idea of seeing something, or if you've experienced VACNET 3.0 also in CS2 in like a limited match, how that has gone. I would really like to know. So I'll show up the supporters also. Thank you for giving me money every single month. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.